I hope you enjoy procedural generation as much as I do, because today I'll show you the world I made for Seed of Ages. As I probably repeat 1,000 times during the video, Seed of Ages is a game that aims to mix procedural generation and strategy games. Let's take a quick look at the world. The world right now makes use of 400,000 tiles and have different features implemented. The world is procedurally generated from a seed, a number that we use at the beginning of the generation that would be something like a fingerprint. If you use the same seed, the same planet will be generated. Each of the tiles on the world has their own properties. They belong to one tectonic plate, to one landmass, and have their own heights, temperatures, moistures, wind forces, biomes, river flows, soil types, and more. But where do we store all the essential data needed to bring our world to life? To do that, I just use some empty game objects, where I add some scripts just to store the arrays of the different datasets. By having the data in arrays, they are ready to use parallelization with compute shaders. Now that we've laid the foundation with our data storage, it's time to breathe life into our worlds through the power of algorithms and systems. I call those systems managers. These managers transform the data through different algorithms, so I have separate functionality and data to make it easier to understand and debug. Building a world from hexagonal tiles presents their unique challenge, especially when transitioning from a flat plane to a spherical surface. To tackle this, I developed a custom shader based on Voronoi diagrams, optimized with a spatial precision technique. Initially, I attempted to project hexagonal tiles onto a flat plane, which worked seamlessly. However, when I applied the same shader to an icosahedron sphere with a specific UV map, I encountered a problem. To make the shader function properly on the spherical surface, I had to subdivide the plane into multiples of 11 hexagons. Additionally, I encountered that hexagonal tiles on the sphere shared more than one tile on the plane. To overcome this challenge, I devised a system to match IDs between the sphere and plane projections. That system ensures that each hexagonal tile on the sphere corresponds accurately to its counterpart on the plane. Once that we have the shader and the data connected, we can start to build our world, starting with the height map. To build the heights of the world, in my first try, I used a purely Perlin noise approach. Although the results were good, after some research, I found that they weren't the more realistic ones, so I decided to use a different approach. To create tectonic plates, I devised a method where random tiles are selected based on the desired plate count. These plates then expand and collide with one another, resulting in the formation of mountain ranges and rifts. Each plate is endowed with translation and rotation movements, simulating the dynamic nature of tectonic activity. Where plates converge, mighty mountain ranges rise, while divergent plates give birth to deep rifts. After the tectonic plate system, I introduced Perlin noises at varying frequencies, adding organic nuances to the terrain. Additionally, masked Perlin noise was employed to sculpt ancient mountains in diverse locations across the world. And with that, the first pass of height map before erosion is done. After the height map, it's time to build the climate. I started building temperature first and precipitation later. But these two magnitudes are deeply interconnected, so in my final approach, I build both at the same time, so they interact while they are built. Let's start with temperature. I give to each tile in the world a radiation value depending on the angle of incidence between sun rays and world surface. This will be maximum in the equator and minimal in the poles. For the moisture, I started giving a 100% on the oceans and 0% in the land masses, so I have some initial values, but I need to spread it around. To build the winds, I researched around and found that it was a very complex topic, so I tried to simplify it as far as I can and build something good enough and fast to compute. I tried different approaches and at the end I came with an idea. Since winds behave as vortex at big scales and they rotate in different directions on south and north hemisphere, I can just build some pressure fields, taking random tiles and giving them a value between -1 and 1. Depending on their latitude and their height value. Then I build the pressure field from that random tiles into the surroundings, and finally build the wind vector from that pressure field. With ocean currents, I do a similar approach, but just using ocean tiles. Finally, once I have ocean currents and wind currents, I just spread temperature and moisture around. To simulate cloud reflecting temperature, increases on moisture lower the temperature around, and to simulate sea evaporation, temperatures increase, moisture spread. I make hundreds of steps with this system until the results are stable. So it's time for erosion. For rivers, I set a flow and an evaporation rate depending on the temperature and the moisture on each tile. Moisture will flow and temperature evaporate it. Then it is spread to the lower height tile around. I tried different approaches to manage lakes. First, I tried making them using a water height value. But then I found that with my parallelized approach, I was having a lot of issues, so I had to find another way. If rivers transport sediments with them on the flow, so lakes' holes must be filled with time. So if a tile where a flow goes in is lower than the tile with the lowest height of the adjacent, I just brace it until the lowest plus a threshold. So it's like a place where sediment is deposited until it dries. This approach, after enough steps, every river flow into ocean at some point. After the erosion step, the height map is modified, so winds, temperature, and moistures are calculated again. After that, we pass to the biome setting. To build biomes, I use the Whitaker diagram. That diagram divides different biomes from precipitations and temperatures. And I added some more biomes to add the height variable for mountains and sea biomes. With that biome step, I already had a procedural world ready to start with the game, but when I started to actually think in the gameplay, I needed to add 2 more steps to the generation. Taking principally the biomes, I researched about the soil types in the world, so I can put some kind of fertility for tiles depending on the soil type. Soil types are generated depending on biomes, moistures, and temperatures. And lastly, I wanted to separate the worlds in different land masses, so I have different regions to generate different animals and plants, so trade become more interesting, because every landmass will have different resources. Well, that's all for now. If you're interested on this kind of video, please like and subscribe. I'll let a link on the description to a demo of the world generator. And lastly, I'll put a real-time generation of one random world. Thanks for watching and see you soon.